Eze to Arsenal's medical is scheduled, but what is next? Could it be Malik Fofana, Anthony Gordon? We're delving into those stories for you. Plus, the Alexander Isak to Liverpool bomber is expected early next week, but the mainstream media is still out on the attack. We're going to delve into that in more detail. Plus, Agoume to Manchester United or any other midfielder, is that plausible as Rasmus Hojlund's exit draws ever near? This is the Football Terrace. This is a done deal show. Let's do it. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. Sorry we weren't live this morning. We actually pre-recorded something to come out. I did 5 back-to-back live streams yesterday, and genuinely, I just need to give my throat a little bit of a rest. So sorry we weren't live this morning, but we're back with you now. We've got Six-Sided, our brand new show, live at 5 p.m. today as well. So 2 very close shows together, but great to see you all here. As I say, make sure like buttons are hit. Make sure you're all subscribing to the show as well. And is everything coming through okay? It's playing up my end a little bit. I just want to make sure I'm on the right. It is. It's okay. So I was getting a bit of a bad signal. You guys hear me okay? Yes? Comments coming through. You can see what's going on. There's no issues there. Let me know, please, people. I just want to make ssure it is working now. Sorry, it's all feeding through okay. You guys can, I just want to make sure. Can someone in the comments say they can hear okay? All good. Right. Lovely. I'm just getting some differentiating messages. Look, we're going to talk Arsenal. We're going to be talking Man United on this show today. We're going to touch a bit on Chelsea as well. But I need to speak about the situation with Newcastle United to begin with, because it's starting to really annoy me. The situation has become ridiculous. Newcastle, Liverpool, Isak. This poisonous love triangle has got absolutely out of hand in every single which way. It truly has. And before we go any further, as I've always say, like and share this stream, because I want to try and get this in front of as many people as possible, because I need to get your opinions on this. We all expect the bomb next week. We all expect, after Monday night's game of Newcastle versus Liverpool, we expect the bid to come in. Wissa to Newcastle looks like a guarantee. And then we are expecting another player, but maybe in the interim there, Liverpool making a formal move nearer to the conditions or meeting the conditions or doing a deal surrounding the conditions that they are talking about with this Isak deal. And I think most of us look at that and say, well, that makes sense. I think a lot of people feel that that is somewhat plausible anyway. But I'm reading a lot of things that are making me angry. And I'm reading a lot of things that are making me angry because the hypocrisy stinks to high heaven. Now, as a Manchester United fan, whenever I get accused of you're just siding with another big 6 team, it makes me laugh. I want to see nothing more than a rival like Liverpool, my biggest rival, my most bitter rival, the team whose fixtures I care about the most. The first 2 games I look for. When have we got Liverpool at home? When have we got Liverpool away? They are, for me, the most important 2 games of a Manchester United fan's season, unless you're in a title race and there's a title decider. But as a general rule, start the season, that's it. I want Isak to stay at Newcastle. In fact, ideally, I'd like him sold to Timbuktu FC, never to set foot in the Premier League again, because he's a problem, because he's hurt my team. Just get that out of the way for anyone new watching. But the rhetoric around this deal, for me, has become beyond poisonous and exceedingly troubling. This here from Alan Shearer. On the left is his words in relation to Trent Alexander-Arnold, where he said, I don't get the criticism. I mean, he's entitled to do whatever he wants. He's given that football club absolutely everything. When it comes to Alexander Isak, 110 million, 120 million for Isak, that's just his goal-scoring foot. You don't sell your best striker because a club with history get sentimental. We are not a feeder club. We're building our own. Now, I know there are differences between these two situations. I'm not going to sit here and gaslight people into thinking they are identical. But what Alan Shearer missed out in the Trent argument was the fact that he run his contract down. He didn't allow Liverpool to bring in any money for a replacement, so Liverpool had to go into their own back pocket for it. He's a local lad, and he left for nothing. And he's picked another big club, yes, in Real Madrid. But it was played down by the 99.9% of the mainstream media. Liverpool fans should calm down. Liverpool fans shouldn't criticize him. So what if he left on a free? So what if you didn't get any money for him? So what if he's from Liverpool? Calm down, dear. It's just a commercial. There's nothing to be angry about here. On the other side, it also said Trent can do what he wants, by the way. So Trent running down his contract and the club getting no money for him, that's fine. He can do what he wants, remember. Isak, I'm not saying I'm a fan of players going on strike, but this is terrible. Liverpool have encouraged him. How dare you only bid 110, 120 million pound for a player? This is outrageous. This is disrespectful. At the same time, no word from Alan Shearer towards the bids for Wissa, which are well below the asking price, the conditions being set by Brentford. That is deemed as okay. That is seen as sensible. That is unchallenged. And what's trifling about this for me is the fact that it's the double standard again. And I saw another one which blew my mind. Henry Winter here, a very credible and very well-respected journalist here in the UK. He said, on the civil war at Newcastle, maybe if Liverpool had acted earlier and offered a proper fee for Alexander Isak, a world-class centre-forward with 3 years left on his contract, Newcastle would have had time and funds to bring in a suitable replacement. 110 million was disrespectful to Newcastle and Isak. And who are Newcastle going to get at this late stage of the window? There's a window with suitable targets moved elsewhere. Johan Wissa is not like for like. Newcastle need two anyway. With Callum Wilson gone, it's very easy to see why Newcastle and their proud, tough owners would not, who don't like losing or losing face, are playing hardball and determined to keep Isak. The saga continues. And again, on the surface, you read that and go, it makes sense. You ignore the fact they were approached weeks before the bid with a verbal offer of 120. You also ignore the fact that, again, what Henry Winter is doing here is ignoring what the player and many other outlets are stating, that this wasn't this isn't something that's new. This hasn't sideswiped Newcastle. The approaches from Liverpool have been going on at the very least since March to April time. More than enough time to get their ducks in a row. You're missing the point that a lot of people believe, or at least for balance as a journalist, that Newcastle have attempted to find the replacements and they've missed out. And what's really funny about this, and again, it takes 5 minutes to dig in, is this isn't always the same energy. Why are Liverpool being treated differently here? Because the same man just 2 years ago said it's Real Madrid. If Harry Kane has a chance, he has to take it. So again, no different energy of Harry Kane versus a different energy for Isak. What is that? Is that the passport? What is it? Why is it that Harry Kane has to take the chance? He then goes on to say that he needs medals as well as records. Yes, there was a League Cup victory for Newcastle, but nobody in their right mind believes over the next 5 to 6 years, Newcastle are going to win more and or bigger medals than Liverpool. On a balance of probability, we all know it's going to be with Liverpool. Again, that's missed out in Henry's statement. By the way, it gets better. It gets better. Strap yourself in, people. Spurs have to take the 100 million plus and give it to Ange Postecoglou to rebuild the squad. So Spurs had to take 100 million. Harry Kane, who is still regarded as a better striker by many than Alexander Isak, okay? 2 years ago, got to take 100 million plus. When it comes to Alexander Isak, that's called an insulting bid. Alan Shearer said that only gets you a foot or a goal-scoring leg. Why did Spurs have to accept 100 million for Harry Kane, but it's an embarrassment of a bid to bid 10 million plus more for Isak? And of course, it will not be simple. Saga time. Again, celebrating the saga. You hear that line there? Saga time, rather than saga continues. A complete and utter, it's just an absolute abomination. It is an absolute abomination. And yes, Alexander Isak is a little bit younger. Absolutely granted. But Harry Kane was 29. He wasn't an old man. It's just the framing of this conversation has been so different every single step of the way. And it's got to a point now, Liverpool being made like the bad guys. Alexander Isak is being spoken about like he's an absolute scumbag. Nowhere near the same energy for Wissa. And by the way, I don't want the same energy for Wissa. I'm pointing out nobody seems to care about it. Victor Gyökeres. I don't see the hit pieces. I don't see the arguments. I actually see people, the same people going, listen, you know, he had a verbal promise. He had a written promise. It wasn't a contract, but he had something down. They promised a move. They had to get it done. But for me, I just look at this situation and it stinks of hypocrisy from top to bottom. And yesterday was the final straw for me. I've got a lot of time and respect for what Newcastle have been through under Mike Ashley, what they're trying to build. I'm not against the ownership they have and where they're based in the world. None of that has ever come out of my mouth. And for the foreseeable, I don't see my mind changing on that. But they keep saying put a respectful bid in for Alexander Isak, like a British transfer record isn't, like a verbal offer of 120 million wasn't respectful, but yet they keep lowballing Brentford for Wissa. They've lowballed for other players already this summer and eventually got to that asking price. So Liverpool are doing no different to their own actions this summer. And yet everyone's calling Liverpool out for it. And as a United fan, I don't want to defend Liverpool, but I feel I have to because I don't feel like this precedent should be set. Because if we do let it kick in, it's going to be Man United's, it's going to be Arsenal's, it's going to be Chelsea's who are next attacked in the same very way. And it stinks in my personal opinion. We know this bomber's coming. We know this update is coming. We know, or I think most of us believe, if not to use the word know, that another bid is coming in. And from my point of view and from my perspective, it can't come soon enough because a line does need to be drawn underneath this. And Liverpool are ready to do the business. They just need Newcastle to be a little bit more willing to sit down on the table and have a conversation and come to a happy medium in the exact same way that Newcastle have asked the majority of clubs that they have been in conversations with this summer to come to a amicable conclusion, a happy medium, a deal being the operative word here. But as I say, from my point of view and perspective, I feel the media coverage surrounding this has been nothing short of an abomination, if I'm being absolutely honest. I think it stinks to high heaven. But I'd love your thoughts on this. I'd love your opinions on this. Please leave us your comments in the comments section below. I really appreciate you not supporting us, but contributing to this conversation. It means a great, great deal indeed. Now, let's go to some of your comments that have come in surrounding this today. A super chat has just come in here from Ronin saying, Harry Kane was older with a year left on his contract. Skipping out on 3 years is wild. I'd be furious if I was a Newcastle fan. Well, my understanding is, and I could be slightly wrong on this, there was an option to extend it for a year as an example. But equally, if you go back and look at the conversations from 3 years ago, when Harry Kane wanted to leave Tottenham and the Man City bids were coming in, the attitude wasn't too different. So I'm not stating that Isak shouldn't cost more, but it's this notion that a 110 million bid, 120 million verbal offer, as if that is absolutely, people are talking like it's a 60 million pound bid, astronomically bad. At the same time, you're sitting there calling it out. Your club's doing the same thing right now to Man United. You're selling unwanted players for 50 million pounds, but then wanting a player, begging a player to only pick you, and then saying no, 25 million for a player that has delivered more, scored more, performed more, won more than your guy. And I'm not saying Chelsea are wrong for that. But you see, my problem here is everybody does what Liverpool are doing. But for some reason, we're taking Liverpool this time because it's part of what's created a circus at Newcastle, and we're saying this is horrendous. Liverpool should be chastised. Isak should be chastised. Yet every other club is happy to sign players under these exact same conditions. Yes, it might be less money, but the principle is exactly the same. And that's the element I'm frustrated at. I'm sitting here and hearing everybody take these pseudo-moralistic stances, yet are happy to celebrate their club doing exactly the same thing. And maybe you personally haven't done it, Ronin, and maybe I haven't seen your comments calling it out. But every time Chelsea are linked to a player, your fans go, yeah, what's he worth? The club wants 60, 40 or leave it. So the attitude of fans when they're trying to buy a player is exactly how Newcastle tried to buy players this summer, and exactly how Liverpool tried to buy players. Therefore, I think it's hypocritical to call Liverpool out for trying to get a deal done for the best of their interests. And ignoring the fact that the real reason this has become a circus is because Newcastle have been rejected every step of the way when it comes to finding replacements. That's the real problem here. But for some reason, calling that out is seen as illegal. A player the manager said he doesn't want, bro. Yeah, that's different. The manager hasn't said that. Garnacho's team have said that. But a manager falling out with a player doesn't instantly devalue their ability. If we said we don't want him because he isn't good enough, he isn't a talented player, he hasn't got a brilliant ceiling, that's fundamentally different from a player that does not get on well with our manager and we need to move them on. For instance, if tomorrow Caicedo and your manager had a falling out, say Caicedo turned up and said, you know what, I've put up with this for a year. After what Enzo Fernandez did last summer on the bus, I can't play with him anymore. This is hypothetical, so no one get angry. Okay, I'm just trying to create a hypothetical scenario. And says, I need to leave. The manager and him then have a falling out and they argue. I don't think it would be unreasonable for Chelsea to say, look, we've got to move him on because of the fallout, but we still value him at 120 million. I wouldn't expect you to then accept 60 million pound for him. You may have to compromise, i.e. I think Man United should compromise with Garnacho because of the circumstance him and his brother have put us in. But the idea they should just bow down to your first offer, that is the utterly ridiculous part. But you're not disrespectful for trying, because Chelsea should always put their own interests first. And that is the element here that people are forgetting. And I think rivals are piling on Liverpool because they know Liverpool getting this deal makes them almost impossible to beat to the league title. That's all this is. And I just don't play that game. I just don't play that game where because I don't want it to happen, I'm going to change my view. I'm going to try my best to stay 100 on this. And Liverpool have done nothing wrong. And I don't even think Isak is. I don't even care that he's gone on strike. I don't. I'd be a hypocrite too, because I love the way my club's treating Rasmus right now, because we need to move him on. So we're essentially putting him on. We're going on strike. But in reverse, we're saying, you ain't playing. Everyone's fine with that. When your club this is the point, Ronan, is when people go, got a ban player for striking, man. Got a ban for striking. What about when Chelsea told loads of players last year, you'll be training on your own, you won't be in the matchday squad. And if you don't find a move, you won't be kicking a ball. That's the same as striking, but from the other direction. That's acceptable. Yet players doing it isn't. I can't live in that world. At the end of the day, right, if you have a 0 hours contract at work, the company might not ring you to come in for a shift. If they ring you to come in for a shift, you can also say no on those contracts because you're contracted to 0 hours. It works in both directions. For me, if a club can hang you out, put you out the pasture when you've got 5 years left on your deal, a player can say, well, I ain't playing either then. We have to keep the same energy in both directions for me. Thanks for calling it out, Terry, but the media just doesn't like Liverpool. Once you realize that, then it all makes sense. Ronan here says it's 100% affects the price. That's an obvious need to sell. If you say no, cool, but the bids aren't going to be that high. Well, look, okay. So Isak saying, but then you've countered your own argument. You've countered your own argument because Isak is forcing a move and saying he doesn't want to be there, creating a personal problem between maybe him and the manager and the owners, and definitely a professional problem. Therefore, the asking price drops, right? So therefore, Liverpool bidding 20 or 30 or 40 million below the set fee isn't disrespectful. It's literally following your logic. But yet, we haven't applied that same energy to all other signings. That's my problem here. And yes, there are nuances and differences in everything we talk about, but by and large, it's the same. And I've got a lot of respect and love for you, Ronin. You super chat a lot. You're a member. You come on shows. I've got a lot of love and respect, bro. But I've just got to keep it 100. The same as I've defended your club when people talk about loopholes and how they're spending money and, well, everyone else can do it. If the rules are there, if it's not against the rules, get it done. Equally, Liverpool are doing nothing different to anybody else here. And yet, for some reason, they're being made out to be some kind of villain in this. And I just can't buy into that they're this big, horrible, nasty villain. It just doesn't make sense to me. Listen, do me a big favor, please, people, and hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Get yourself subscribing to the show as well. I wanted to mention that the Eze deal as well. We're going to open up the lines for your calls in a minute, people. Obviously, Eze to Arsenal is a done deal. It's a complete deal. It's going to happen. I'm hearing Arsenal fans say Fofana next. What are you saying? What are you, the community here, saying on this? Because I'm really intrigued to see what it is that people have got to say. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Will they go on to anybody else, Arsenal, or are they done? Plus, with all the fallout from yesterday, I mean, it was a crazy 24 hours. How's everyone feeling about this deal now? Because we've got a big talking point coming up on Six-Sided in a couple of hours' time about Arsenal's squad and how good it is. And I'm not going to reveal that to you now. Fofana who? Malik Fofana I'm talking about here. Malik Fofana is the player of which I am personally speaking about. Barfier says Semenyo. I mean, going in for Semenyo now would be absolutely epic from an Arsenal point of view. I already think now when you look at I'm going to get it up on my screen actually, so it's a little bit easier to see. Where is Arsenal's deals? I'm jumping through these quick. Let's look at that. If you look at Arsenal's summer window now, Eze, Gyökeres, Mosquera, Kepa, Norgard, Madueke, Zubamendi. When you look at that and realize that Madueke is the worst signing, if we want to use the word worst, whatever, you can say worst or least best, or I don't really care. That is a really good summer. Creativity, goals, control, technical ability, players for the future, excellent cover. One of the best number 2 goalkeepers in the league. What a phenomenal summer they've had. What a phenomenal top-class summer they've had. Could they add one more to it? Could they add one more star player to it? I'd love to get your thoughts and opinions on that. I really would. This here from Barry says Arsenal have to have been something to get done. They ain't so. It's the old. Sorry, I can't even read that, Barry. That doesn't even make sense. Let me try and read that again. Arsenal have to have been something to be done. They ain't so. It's same old for that lot of numbs. I don't get what you mean, bruv. Delroy here says we are being greedy now. We should be happy. Anything extra is a huge bonus. We've signed 7 players. I do agree with you, Delroy. I do think by and large, Arsenal fans should be happy. I think there should be an element of pride. I think there should be an element of jubilation. I think there should be an element of excitement about what's to come now as well. I think there is this sort of, what else, if you're an Arsenal fan, you're saying, what else, what can this team do? Great combinations in attack. There's excellent rotation. You've got a stronger squad to really go at the League Cup and the FA Cup this year. You've added 2 clutch players to your team in Eze and Gyökeres. That could be the difference between going out this year in a semi-final of the Champions League and winning that semi-final and getting to the final. Because I look back at that PSG game and you look at the chances and the opportunities. With Eze starting or coming on from the bench, with Gyökeres being in the side, could you have scored some of those goals? Could you therefore have won that game? Yes. You go back to that semi-final in the Carabao Cup against Newcastle. Does Gyökeres score some of those goals? Could Eze have made a difference? Absolutely. And that isn't to mention, like, Noni Madueke coming off the bench. Just to throw this out there, he is better than the current version of Raheem Sterling. He just is. He is better than Reece Nelson, who came before him. Although I don't think he's worth £48 million, although I don't think it is this sensational, amazing, greatest signing of all time, I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend. Is it better than what they've had previously? I'd say yes. Norgard. Is he as good on the ball as Jorginho? No. But is he better from a physical aspect? Is he going to help to protect your defense more in the last 15, 20 minutes of games that you've got to see out? Is he a better stand-in in the modern day game where an engine, energy, and stamina is needed? Yes, I think he is. I think there's massive improvement here for Arsenal. So I don't think that you're greedy for wanting more. 7 players, it could be 20, doesn't matter as long as areas of our squad still need help. But what areas of your squad is it the left-hand side you're focusing on? Like, unpack that for me. Terry would love Rodrigo to Arsenal loan to buy deal, then focus on sales to get the funds to make the Rodrigo deal permanent. Well, that's the other option, isn't it? You could potentially do a loan with an obligation to buy, but you could set the obligation to buy so you don't need to do it until at least the 1st of July next year, which gives you, from a financial fair play perspective, it covers you for this year. You know, could you then move on a Martinelli late in the window? It looks like you're going to see some other players go, the sort of Zinchenkos and the Fabio Vieira. So you'll probably be able to cover the wages for that year-long period. Zubimendi definitely needs some time to settle into the Arsenal squad. Well, that's the one argument, and we're going to talk about that more on the six-sided show today. Is this element of like, is it the best squad? Should they be expected to win the league? But what about time to bed in? Because I do think that's the next thing that's going to be thrown at Arsenal. You'll probably have people say, well, Liverpool's players need time, City's players need time, Spurs' players need time, Chelsea's players need time. Will that same energy be given to Arsenal after making 7 signings in one summer? Liebert here says, when you can just tell a team is doing the right things. Lots of clubs moving that way this window. I agree. I think a lot of the traditional top 6 sides have moved impeccably well, and Spurs have just proven again and again that they are in the lower. They're in the lower echelon of that. But I don't think it's been a bad summer for the traditional top 5 teams in the country. I would have liked a bit more incomings at my club, Manchester United. That hasn't been doable for us due to the financial restraints, but I'm very happy with the players that have come in. I do think if we could get another 1 or 2 out, you may see another 1 or 2 in, but I like it. Phil here says Zubimendi has settled well. That Man United game is he was still one of the better midfielders. And look, I don't think you can read too much into it. No matter how much you spend, there's still going to be games where you're not the best team. And I think Man United on performance levels were better. Have you guys seen the stats that came out today? So from the opening weekend of the Premier League, this is all clubs compared to each other. Bruno Fernandes had the most shot-creating actions and joint most chances created. Cunha had the joint most successful take-ons and the joint most shots on target. And Mbeumo had the most progressive carries in the league. Ahmad had the joint most carries into the box. Dorgu had the joint most dribblers tackles and won the most fouls. And Lenny Yoro had the joint most interceptions. Man United individually and as a team played really, really well. We just couldn't score because Raya had a great game. Raya, by the way, pulled off the most amount of saves in a game of any keeper in, I think, over a decade, I read. So the point I'm making is that sometimes you're only as good as the opponents that are ahead of you. And Manchester United, as a United fan, I'm disappointed we didn't win. Happy with the performance. But I think Arsenal I don't think Arsenal was so bad as United were actually pretty good on the day. This here from K-Tex says, you are the most realistic and neutral supporter of a team other than Liverpool, and you give Liverpool credit and speak the truth. That's what makes me follow you the most. Liverpool fan here. I appreciate that, mate. And look, as I say, like I try my best to do it. I don't always succeed because I'm a human being, but I appreciate you saying it. Jerry, that goalkeeper stat can't be true. I swear I heard them say it on Monday Night Football. On Monday Night Football, I swear they said most saves this weekend was Raya at 7. And the game they mentioned, I swear it was about 10 years ago. But if it wasn't, there's still a lot of saves in the game. You know? Still a lot of saves in the game. Fabio Vieira to Stuttgart is ongoing, likely to be a loan with an obligation. There are still some discussions. Oh, yeah, look, I think a few of those will happen at Arsenal, and then it's a case of let's see what else kind of transpires from that point. Just bear with me a second, people. Just sharing the link. If anybody wants to phone in, I'm going to put that link in the live chat now, my people. If you want to phone in, that would be absolutely marvelous. I look forward to hearing from you. What's happened? When people are at Bomba, I'm always like, or bomb just dropped. I go and check. There's nothing. Oh yeah, there's also a stat as well that KJ just shared here. Most saves in a Man United versus Arsenal match at Old Trafford. Yeah, listen, it was a lot. It was genuinely a lot. And it might not have been 10 years because I swear it can't be more than what David De Gea made. It might have been like the most saves made at Old Trafford in like a decade. So I'm maybe getting that slightly wrong. I'd have to listen back to the clip. But at the end of the day, it was a genuinely high number and most saves of the weekend. And there's something in that. And that's why I don't think we're always harsh on our own teams when we're very insular and we're looking inwards. We could have been better. We could have done more. We should have done this. We should have done that. Sometimes we don't spend enough time as fans looking at how good the other team were. You know, that David De Gea famous game where he just saved everything. You can maybe criticize the finishing, but there just comes a point sometimes and loads of goalies had those games. Courtois had one in the Champions League final. Probably the best game of his life. The saves he made were ridiculous. Yes, they won 1-0 Madrid, but Courtois was the man of the match. Donnarumma last year, in nearly every single knockout round of the Champions League was just pulling off saves that you can't legislate for. You can't legislate for them. So, yeah, that's a big part of it. Thank you, Luke Skywalker, for encouraging everybody to get that like button hit today. On Man United, look, we are taking calls on all these subjects, so feel free to call in. On Manchester United, look, there is talks that Agoume to United may happen, and I was live with Ben Jacobs an hour or so ago, and he basically said he isn't too familiar with this, but he did say that in his eyes that he thinks Man United will make, or it's quite likely United will make another approach for a midfielder or are looking at another midfielder. I want to make sure I word that correctly. And I like the idea of Agoume, not because I know much about him. I've been very, very consistent with that. People I respect in the game have told me how good he is. His data looks very good. He's very comparable to Carlos Baleba. My only fear of that is that you might eat into the budget for Baleba if it doesn't work out. You know, then what happens to him? But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and cry about the link. But we have to get rid of players first. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about Rasmus Hojlund for a moment, because in a summer where players are being criticized left, right, and center for behaving badly, going on strike, not that I'm advocating they're doing too much wrong. This young man wants to stay at Manchester United, but has been told that he can't. Has been told that he has to go. And instead of crying, instead of creating problems for his club, instead of being a baby, instead of being unprofessional, him and his agents are telling all the potential suitors, if you want us, it can't just be a loan with an option. It needs to be a loan with an obligation to buy. One, it's a better deal for Man United. Two, it's a much better deal for them. They know what their future looks like. They know they're getting at least 2 seasons at a club. And it's refreshing. It's refreshing to see a player make a very sensible decision, which is, you could sit here and fight, which is admirable. But if you're being told by the manager, if you're being told by the club, you don't have a future here, then make the correct decision to move yourself on. I get there are players that I only want to go here, I only want to go there, I'm waiting for the right offers to come in. I don't think you're helping your careers that way. What if your offers don't come in? You spend a year not playing football. especially the young players. Like, I still look at Jadon Sancho and think, if you got his head down, had a good year or two, this guy could get back in the England squad. This guy could really still play at the very highest level. I don't know if he will, though. Garnacho, what if Chelsea decide to not pay what Man United want, or even to compromise, and you're left with no club, and you have a whole year of barely playing football? That's no World Cup. The time the next one comes around, you're going to be in your mid to late 20s. All it takes is one injury in that season, wherever you are. You may never go to a World Cup in your life. These players have got to make better decisions. Their careers are so short. So short. And I just wanted to take a little bit of time to say a massive, just well done for not just for the behavior, but the brilliant decision-making, the professionalism from Rasmus Hojlund in this scenario. Absolutely impeccable from him. And I wanted to just shout him out for it. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a Man United fan. It's helping my club. But I think it's when someone says, I love the club and that's where I want to be. Even with Rashford as well this summer, by the way. Look how quickly he got the team that he wanted and who wanted him. Look how quickly he got them to do a deal. In fairness to Rasmus, we only decided to do this with him about 2 weeks ago. But look how quickly, I think Rashford proved that he does respect. I know it's been about 18 months. I know that he's had fallings out. But he still got that done quickly. That Hills could have dragged. Barcelona might have said, listen, if we drag it on longer, we might be able to get you on better terms, pay you more money, whatever. He ended up taking a pay cut so he could go. And I respect that a lot. Now, I'm not saying people are obliged to do it. People are obliged to do whatever they want as long as they're not breaking the law, which is fine. But I respect what they've done. Deserves a hell of a lot of credit for me. It really, really does. Promise here says, I'd like to phone in one day. I don't have a football YouTube channel or anything like that. How do I go about it? I love your show and the chance to give you give to everyone. Promise, listen, we put the link in the chat like we've done today, and you can just jump on whenever you're ready. You can come on and give us a view and an opinion. We're going to be doing more and more of these over the course of the season. So first of all, thank you for the super chat. But yeah, very simple, very easy for you to get on. And yeah, look forward to speaking to you one day, my friend. Look forward to that indeed. Carlton here says, historic double rejection for Tottenham. Yeah, man. I do feel a little sorry for him, if I'm being honest. I do feel a little bit sorry for him. I really, really do. Some wouldn't, but I do. Rashford was very lucky to get what he wanted, else he'd be doing a Sancho. Well, there's no proof of that, Lee. There's no proof of that, so I'm not going to put it out there. I think if Barcelona had said to him, we're not interested or we won't pay you what you want, I think it'd have pivoted somewhere else. Why do I think that? He went to Aston Villa. So I don't think he was too proud. And that's actually my worry for Sancho, because again, I don't dislike the man. He had Chelsea come in for him, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Juve, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Roma, a massive Italian club. Said no to them all. I wonder where he's going to end up. I hope he doesn't end up just for the money, playing at a level that he doesn't really want to be at. I really, really hope that isn't true. I really, really hope that isn't true, or that doesn't happen to him. I don't. This here says Man United have open to permanent and also loan deals. Rasmus will assess the options. His options follows. From Lloyd Whitwell. Yeah, listen, United are open to it. And again, United are more open to do a deal for a player who's open to helping them. It sort of stands to reason. Oh, interesting update here, Arsenal fans. It's just been reported. Now, it is from the Sun, so we have to take it with a very big pinch of salt. But it's just been reported that Eze will not play for Crystal Palace tonight in the Conference League. Interesting. We know that Arsenal want to get the medical done quickly tomorrow and have him registered by 12 p.m. so that he can play or be involved in the matchday squad on Saturday. But report just out now that Eze will not play in the Conference League for Crystal Palace tonight. It's only a report in the Sun, so it could very well be false because it's the Sun newspaper, and we have to be very, very mindful of that. But that report has just landed now. So that'll be it goes a little bit against what people said yesterday. Hand of Arsenal said it was still undecided. Well, that's fair. Yeah, if it was undecided, it could now have gone through. It could now have gone through in that direction that he doesn't play. my feeling yesterday was just a personal feeling and opinion was that if Arsenal were truly going to pay a little bit more upfront than Spurs and going to give it in better terms than Spurs, I always felt there had to be a rationale to that. I don't think it was to beat Spurs to him, because if you might as well offer the same and let the player decide, right? I think that is. I mean, if I'm Arsenal, I'm sitting there going, listen, you've got to deal agree with Spurs, right? Yes. I'd say if he plays tomorrow night, then we just match the deal and let the player decide. But you know he's going to pick Arsenal, right? If you want him to not play, you say, look, maybe we'll pay him an extra 5 million up front year one, and we'll pay it over 3 years rather than 4 years. And Palace go, okay, we can take that. There has to be something in offering the better terms. It can't just be the same. It can't just be the same as Tottenham's deal. Personally, but that's just my view. So we'll see if any other outlets corroborate that soon. But we'll see. Because again, Arsenal might also be sitting there saying, look, he can't play for you because the time he plays, does this, does that, comes to us, does a medical. I don't know the rules. Maybe you can't do a medical just after a game like that. I'm not throwing it out there. Maybe they have to wait a certain. Maybe they're just saying, no, we need to get it done now, so we need him for Saturday. That's why we're paying you an extra 5 million up front year one. I don't know. I'm just putting it food for thought. Let's go to some of your calls anyway, because my throat's hurting. I've done so many streams in the last few days. It's crazy. Rob Ladd is... Oh, hang on. Oh, no, it's just... No, BBC put something out about Eze, but it's nothing to do with the game tonight. So I thought we'd be getting a little bit of confirmation there. Rob's joining us now. Rob's an Arsenal fan. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Yo.
Bro.
I'm still reeling from being called the Ibiza final boss last night, but we'll get past that. I wanted to talk about the signing of Enciso to BlueCo.
Yeah,
this stinks, right? It just seems like another way they're like trying to get around the same rules that everyone else has to tiptoe around. I think signing for a company rather than a club is kind of dodge and kind of sus. Because I mean, I guess what they're going to do is they're going to keep him registered to BlueCo until they clear enough players out of Chelsea that they can then make him a Chelsea player, right?
Yeah, I read something about this earlier today from Kieran Maguire. Let me go and find it now, because it made a lot of sense. Let me find what he said. So somebody put a post up and then he replied to it. God.
Can't imagine Enciso was a BlueCo fan.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. So Carl Anker quote tweeted Ornstein's tweet about yesterday with question marks, and then underneath replied, "Forgive my naivety, but wouldn't signing for BlueCo count as a third-party ownership of a player, which isn't allowed anymore, I don't believe. Imagine someone has been paid rather well to argue the opposite, but this deal raises a lot of questions that fans should get answers to." Kieran Maguire then responded with, "Chelsea cannot sign Enciso and loan him to Strasbourg because they already have 3 loan players already, which is the limit under FIFA. Chelsea also have to follow UEFA's business plan following their breach of controls rule. They've got to basically get their expenditure. I think they've got like 10 days to prove that they balance their books before otherwise they won't be able to play any of the new players in the Champions League. It goes, this involves having a negative net spend this window. If Chelsea did sign Enciso, it creates more pressure to sell players. But getting Strasbourg to sign Enciso and then sell him to Chelsea in 2 or 3 years solves that problem. So essentially, BlueCo have done the deal, but he will become a Strasbourg player officially, so he's not loaned to them. But then Chelsea will buy him in a couple of years' time.
It's baffling. Yeah, I just
do you think this should be? Do you think this type of? I don't know how they word the law, but do you think this type of ownership models? Do you think that FIFA and UEFA need to look at this? Because a lot of people's views are it's not against the rules. Yes, there's loopholes. Yes, but it's almost a case of should they look at the rules and rewrite them so they're a lot clearer? That just essentially says it's one club per company, per ownership. These types of deals are just there's a blanket ban on them. Is that something you'd like to see the ownership, the sort of the powers that be look at?
Yeah. So I mean, we've had Crystal Palace missing out on Europa League for what was essentially a missing piece of admin. Meanwhile, you've got Chelsea doing this with players and things, and I just think it's pretty unbalanced and seems pretty unfair, even if no rules are being broken, which is the sort of get out of free jail card for this kind of behaviour. You've also got to look at the Strasbourg fans who have been protesting the BlueCo partnership ownership, whatever it is, saying like they don't want to be this like feeder club for Chelsea. I'm pretty sure it was either last night in the Conference League or I saw the pictures of the fans holding up signs and stuff. And yeah, it's obviously those are the main the fans are the ones that are going to be the most affected by this, right? So yeah, I do think something needs to happen, especially like I say, when Palace are getting dropped out of the Europa League after winning the FA Cup for the first time, and this is all going on behind the scenes. It just reeks.
I'm not against multi-club ownership in principle. I suppose for me, I agree with the point you made there about Strasbourg fans. For instance, if Man United get taken over by Ineos completely, and Ineos are like, we're going to make United the biggest and best team in the world, and they do, they start buying other clubs, and all they become is feeder clubs to us. I then look at it and go, hang on, I might sit there and celebrate that the feeder clubs are helping me. We can buy players that we can't actually afford. They can have them. We buy them off them cheaper years later. But doesn't that then just mean that the clubs in those those clubs have got no real chance of ever becoming like Strasbourg probably would like, hang on, why don't you try and make us as big in France as Chelsea are in England? You know, I'd love to ask Girona fans. I don't know the answer to this question. How do they feel? You know, do they feel they get the resources, the time, and the attention that Man City get? It's one of those things to me where, again, I'm not saying rules are being broken. I'm just looking at it from maybe a principle perspective of, yes, we all look at our clubs, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and go, well, they're the center of our footballing universes, and absolutely so. But I have to ask myself, am I comfortable with other people's beloved clubs being used as a pawn to help my club better? That's a different conversation. Again, there might be another side to it, though. And I will say this, a lot of the lower level clubs are always at risk of going out of business. And my brother had this theory. He's an Orient fan a few years ago. His theory is eventually certain clubs at the lower levels are going to have to officially merge with other clubs so they don't go out of business. So maybe there is this element of that. But then you run the risk of just becoming like the NBA or the NFL, where it's a closed shop. Because if suddenly all the lower level clubs start having giant clubs as part of their ownership structure so that they don't go out of business and are all used as sort of feeder clubs, well, they're not allowed to, they won't ever be allowed to be in the same league as each other. Therefore, there's no, I always think like Leyton Orient fans, and I know quite a few because of my brother, they've got decent owners again. They have ambitions of trying to get into the Premier League. They have ambitions of trying to get, look at Wrexham. And look what they're trying to achieve. Imagine Wrexham were told, yeah, look, we've got this new ownership. It's going to be great. We'll get you back into League Two. We'll get you as high into League One. But then it stops. Why? Because we're also buying a club that's already in the Championship. So they're our main focus. I don't think it goes down so well. So I will say this to Chelsea fans. I'm not saying it should be banned personally, but I do think you've got to look at how the fans of those other clubs you're buying feel, because they love their club like you love Chelsea. And would you like it if Chelsea got taken over and you were going to officially become Real Madrid's feeder club? I think you'd all go, fuck you. So yeah. I do think there's a conversation to be had. You're right.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, on the Eze deal, I had this thought earlier when you posted up the fan reaction video. And by the way, 10 out of 10 on the intro video for that. That was superb. It was an idea for the reveal video, the Eze reveal video, you know, the social media video. So if you can picture this, Eze's in the back of a car. He's in there with his suitcase. His phone rings. He's like, hello. And then Saka on the other end goes, where are you at, mate? Where are you at? And he goes, yeah, I'm about to sign for them. And he just says, no, mate, come home. And then it pans out. And then behind Saka, as he reaches over his shoulder, takes the phone off him, it's Big Sol Campbell. And he just goes, come home, brother. And the car slams on the brakes, does a 360, heads back, and he slips on the number 10. Love it.
Yeah, that's good. Do you know what they really should do, Arsenal? They should get Igal on the reveal, and they should have Eze getting dressed and suited and ready for his reveal. And he should be in a room getting ready, a hotel room getting ready, and then he should go downstairs and hand his key card back over to check out. And Igal's there as a cameo, takes the key card off him and goes, "Cheers, mate." That's what they should do, right? They should do that. Would just be, it would break the internet. It's what Igal deserves for all the abuse he got for taking it. That is what they should have Igal as part of that. Do you know what I'm saying? They won't be able to mention Tottenham. That'll go, well, they might be able to, maybe, but you know what I mean? Or it's or who am I charging? Or Igal goes, who am I charging this to? And Eze goes, charge it to Spurs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I'm saying is they should make it where they play is it a color thing? Is it a color thing? and have Eze go, yes, soul is a color thing. Forget wearing white. I wear red. Boom, or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is it a color thing? It's a color thing. Of course it was. It's all about red. And then that could work. That could work. Like that should do it. But yeah, charge it to Levy. Yeah, something like that. But they could do something big on that one. But KJ, what are you here to say, bro?
United need these sales, man. We need these sales to go through to get what we want. The talk of not getting a goalkeeper potentially is not nice to hear. We have the worst goalkeeper pairing in the UK, including Ireland and Northern Ireland. In these two islands, we have the worst goalkeeper pairing, and that goes all the way down to grassroots. I know grassroots teams with better goalkeeper pairing than Onana and Bayindir. So the talk of us not potentially getting a goalkeeper is worrying. We can't go in without that. We need to get some sales through. We need to find a way to get Lamens through the door and give Onana actual competition, because one of the reasons why I also think he makes mistakes and he doesn't correct them and he doesn't get better is because he knows Bayindir is his backup. And he just knows that I don't need to actually worry about improving because my guy's worse than me, which is crazy when you think about it. So yeah, we need to do that. And on the midfield, I hope Man United get a midfielder. Obviously, you know, I like Agoume. I like the look of him. But there are also many options out there as well. So it's not just about getting one guy. We've got so many midfielders out there that could do the job that we need someone to do until we get someone like a Belabor or Adam Wharton. Like United, we need to just go for it. Look, I think we might be the only club in the Premier League, not just the top six, the only club in the Premier League that not made a single sale, have not made a single pound off sales. I know that's probably the case, but we need to just get our players in and worry about the sales later, because right now.
I get what you mean about goalkeeper, and it wasn't great hearing what Jacobs had to say earlier on the United stuff on the United stand. And I am a little worried. I am a little worried that we don't do anything more, because I've seen the improvements, and now I just want to add more to that. I get that completely. Mel, what are you here to say, brother?
Hi, Terry.
Hello, mate.
I was backstage yesterday when we were having the Isak debate and how the media is treating the different actors.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a headline in the Athletic today that says something about Isak's petulance looks bad. Basically, what happened yesterday was that both sides went out and accused each other of lying, but only the player is petulant. That's a bit weird. So
yeah. No, I agree. And most of the same media outlets had no issue with Harry Kane for 2 years looking to leave Spurs. They were fine with it.
The thing is, though, fans go nuclear whenever there's a headline and don't stop to ask themselves, why is that headline there? And the northeastern journalists that write Newcastle stories, of course they're going to protect their sources. Their sources are Newcastle, sometimes the agents. And who does that story benefit? How is it framed? And bearing that in mind, there should be a coherent strategic media strategy for what gets into the media from the club. And I don't see them having that, because everything is contradictory. within each story and from story to story. Not only the thing that you've mentioned 50 times that he's not for sale, but he is in the same story, but also the thing that he's a petulant, childish, whatever nasty word they come up with, but we also want to reintegrate him into the squad. That's coming from the club.
Yeah.
And every serious actor within the football industry knows how journalism in football works. This is not good for Newcastle long term. This has been...
No, I agree. I don't think it's a good look at all for them. I always remember how tarnished it made most of Raheem Sterling's abuse, booze, the media attention on his tattoos and what he spent his money on. That all really started after the hatchet job that was done on him when he left Liverpool. The way they made him out to be greedy, he didn't care about football. It was all about money. The lies told about that man still haunt him today. That's probably my biggest reason for wanting to stick up for Alexander Isak, is that I feel they're painting him in a very, very nasty light. And I don't think they do that to all players. We know for a fact they don't do that to all players. And I'm very uncomfortable with it. Very, very uncomfortable with it indeed. Something about it just feels very, very off key on every single level for me.
Whenever that happens to a player, the next one coming to that club is going to think twice. It's just a thing. The Liverpool fans were not. We really should not have done that to any player that's ever played for us. We should never have done that. And it's the same thing. We bought the media narrative. Why is that narrative there? Because the club wants to look good for the supporters. It wants to blame someone else, deflect their own shit show.
No, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on when you say that, mate. I really, really do. Amel, appreciate you jumping on, bro, and having your say with us today. And we'll chat again soon, my friend. Thank you, mate. Thank you. Appreciate that a lot. Ash here says, Terry, thoughts on the UEFA's rule and how it impacts Isak? I don't know.
I don't know what FIFA rule is on about.
I don't know. I don't know what the rule is, my friend. The league calls BlueCo for financial advice. Listen, I hear you, mate. I hear that you don't care because you're a Chelsea fan. I'm not even saying you're broken rules, but I do feel for the Strasbourg fans that don't want it. They don't want to be a feeder club. They want an ownership. They want to try and make them the biggest and the best club in the world, and I think that's fair. I really do. I be for final boss and David Brent's love child. I hear you there. Listen, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in today. We're going to be back live in about an hour's time for the second episode of Six Sided. This is going to redirect you to it, so get yourselves ready. I've got some big talking points about Arsenal squad in the show. We're looking at Liverpool. We're talking about Chelsea. We're talking, what are the other? I've got the subjects here. We're going to be speaking about Man United and giving in to players. We're looking at Chelsea's ownership structure, plus a big question on Mohamed Salah. Is he the third best player of his generation? We're going in through all that. It's going to be a great show. So I'd love to see you all back in an hour's time on the terrace. Until then, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you soon. Peace.